Recorded cloud. So excited to speak with Morgan Massey and her abundance of skills in the leadership area and all of the things that you do. And I'm excited to do, like you call it, mini talks. So
Yes,
let's have us a little mini talk, okay?
let's let's do it.
Yeah, right. Look, tell us what it is that you do, and you have a product offering that you offer to people, and your services is becoming more dialed in all the time. Oh,
It is, my big service is leadership and training concierge, and so I say I'm you or your company's concierge when it comes to training or leadership coaching. And then more recently, I've had a lot of folks come to me because I'm an international best-selling author. I've published 5 different books. I've been a part of some compilations as well. And they're like, "How do you do that? How do you write and publish a book? Do you work with publishers? Do you self-publish on your own?" And I said, "I've done both, and I have some distinct opinions of both." And so that kinda led into a service of coaching people that wanted to create some thought leadership pieces. And now it's getting more dialed in to help people write and self-publish some nonfiction, like maybe HR best practices or something on how to build resilient leadership. Or I'm working with someone right now who's a retired police officer and just wanted to write a book about all of his stories across his career. And so I'm just giving them the tools they have and connecting them with other people and publishing and writing because I don't do everything in house. That's why I'm a concierge. So if I don't do it, maybe I'll toss them to Paul to help, and Paul can help them get published, right? Or be a part of a compilation. So building my network and dialing it in all the time.
it's awesome. So much of learning and flexing your muscles in this space is whether it's publishing, speaking, or becoming a prosperous entrepreneur is really not figuring it out yourself, but having the people that have done it before to lead you on the way. Because I don't know about you, but when I was writing my book, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my
Oh,
life
yeah.
because I really didn't know what I was doing.
Yep.
And when you're going down a path that you've never been before, you don't even know if it's the right path. You just have this desire to write a book that's in you, and you're making the attempt, you're striving, but it can seem like such a cumbersome process. So, what was it that helped you to dial it in? Was it a mentor? Was it reading a book? But what was it that really kind of clarified everything to you and help you to become a best-selling author and then to help other people as well?
I did gather a community of people around me that had been through the writing and publishing process. That definitely helped, and we helped each other along the way. I also did go out there and opt into a writing course so I could be more structured. And one of the biggest takeaways from that program was making time every day or every other day to just put words to paper. And you have to get your expertise out and onto paper. You can structure it and make it sound nice. Later, figure out what your voice truly is by looking at those key messages and words that you keep using in your free write. Uh, and put some structure to your outline. And once I started following that process, I'm like, well, this is a lot easier than I thought it was going to be because now I have some rules to guide me along the way. But I could not have done it alone. I needed a writing coach. I needed my team of experienced friends and colleagues around me to help get me out of my own head when I was overthinking things.
Or true. Don't you find that when you're writing, is you just wonder, is this any good? And you don't have that validation.
Yep.
Whereas if you're speaking to a crowd, you can kind of read the crowd and see if they're looking at their phone or if they're wandering around or if they're actually locked in and you're like, you have them. So don't you notice that it's hard in that respect without the validation?
It's definitely hard. And as an entrepreneur, and before I was an entrepreneur, writing a book as part of a team, it was still very isolating, lonely work. Because again, you have to get all that information in your head out onto paper, and that just takes quiet time and diligence. It's a solo work for sure.
So with the books that you've written, Tell us about the one that you've written about your business or that's kind of like your story.
Yeah, I think one of my most popular books is one that I co-authored with a couple really treasured colleagues, and that's the 5 Coaching Conversations. And we've since built a program and coaching around that, and it's kinda tells a little bit about my story as a leader, but also has some data from a 2-year research study that we did on what makes leaders good and effective and having conversations with their employees to boost retention and keep that engagement going over time. And what I loved about that is, again, like the collaboration aspect of it. All of us writing the pieces, sharing our stories of how we've developed and evolved as leaders, and gathering those stories from other people and kind of publishing it together. So leaders that go through our program or read the book realize that it doesn't matter what industry or what level of a leader or how long you've been a leader, we're all experiencing similar challenges, and we can help each other through those if we can just learn how to connect with each other uh, as people managers, and also learn how to have effective conversations with our employees too. Uh, so I've really enjoyed the journey that the 5 Coaching Conversations has brought, which has kind of opened the door for my other books based off of other areas of my expertise too.
Morgan, it's exciting in the respect that we have such a similar path that we've been traveling, doing. My fourth anthology book is coming out this Thursday, and it's a Course Creators Playbook. The power of an anthology book is that, for example, the one just published last month in July, it was called The Author's Playbook.
Mm.
And when you have like 15 or 18 authors that have like the single tip or the secret that helped them to become a best-selling author, but you hear it from 15 different authors.
Yeah,
And then when it publishes and you have your launch, you have the combined following of 15 or 18 authors.
I do.
And every one of those books have gone number one international bestseller, all three categories, most coveted category before they even release. And
Mhm.
so, like in pre orders and things that happened, and when you have your ebook go out for 99 cents, we have press releases, we do our email campaigns to our followers. There, it's just a dynamic and very interactive and explosive way to publish a book. Whereas New York Times says that 1 million authors publish on Amazon every year. The average lifetime sales is like 250 to 300
Yep.
for the lifetime of the book. That's a big difference in that respect. And so you've experienced, the power of it. And so it's a great thing. So let's talk about what you've got going. You're putting together a resilient leadership conference. It sounds like it's going to be in a resort location. You're in Nevada, of all places. That's really great for wintertime, but you're in Reno instead of Lake Tahoe. But tell us about this resilient leadership. Interested to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And although I am in Reno, we're looking at the location in Tahoe. Tahoe's only 45 minutes away. I mean, that's just a hop, skip, and a jump, right? And resiliency has been a passion of mine and an area of interest for a number of years. And I went through the University of Pennsylvania and became certified through Dr. Seligman's positive psychology and resilient program. And in my work as a leadership coach and consultant over the years, have developed my own kind of resiliency model for leaders based off of all the other resilient models out there and what is actually applicable and tangible and practical for a leader in the workplace. Because there's kind of like a there's life coaching and there's business coaching, there's leadership coaching, and all those have different models. And I wanted to have one that was specific to the business context. And so, what I'm looking to do with this resilient leadership workshop is gather leaders and professionals who have a story to tell about how they've overcome significant obstacles in their career. They have some lessons that they want to tell others about how they've reached where they are today, because we all have overcome adversity in our life. And what I'm finding is that the more people that I interview about their stories of resilient leadership, same thing with the coaching conversations. There are these similar themes that are popping up in that how we as humans navigate change and can flourish in this new normal after whatever challenge or adversity is that we've gone through. And so I just know that there are tidbits there that people want to share. And so I'm looking to create a workshop based off of that here in beautiful Lake Tahoe, probably in sometime in spring 2025. So here coming up soon, looking for the dates specifically and the location right now. And just looking for people that might be interested to go on an adventure with me. Come to Lake Tahoe, soak in the beautiful scenery. The way that I run workshops is we're not going to be stuck in a boardroom for 8 hours of a day, deaf by PowerPoint. This is an immersive experience. We're going to be sharing our experiences. We're going to be writing our stories about resilient leadership with kind of the outcome of we'll be creating a compilation book with everyone's story so you can share that with your network and with your employees on the lessons that you've learned on how to overcome adversity as a leader in whatever space you're in.
It seems that the resilient leadership has really grabbed you and there's a certain appeal about it. And I don't think it's necessarily that you would have become the resilient leadership expert,
No,
but it seems to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems that you get a lot of joy of like uncovering these stories within other people's and then allowing them to flourish as a writer and help them get promoted to become a best-selling author. Am I right?
absolutely. It's a gateway to thought leadership. It's a gateway to, like you said, becoming an international best-selling author, which can open a whole bunch of doors for you in the professional realm and personal realm to just have your story and your expertise out there. This is just a catalyst. This is one of the ways that launched my career as an entrepreneur was being a part of these types of published books. And the network that you form as a part of these types of workshops and engagements, I mean, those relationships last. And you never know where that's going to lead to and how you can collaborate with the people that you meet along the way. So, no, I don't need to be Morgan Massey leadership resilience expert. It's just providing that platform for people to share their stories so they can figure out what those opportunities are that will come of having their story published for everyone to see.
Let's talk about the power of community because you've become a part of my community, which is Publish Speak and Prosper.com, which is a private Facebook community, which is free. And we share, things that we're learning and the things that we're developing and kind of interacting. But let's talk about the power of community and how that you see that's so beneficial, not just for yourself, but for everybody involved.
I think it's so powerful. I think that's been a trend of what I've been talking about this whole time. I could not have reached the high points of where I am right now as an entrepreneur and building my business alone. And it's all been based off of the community that I'm building. And Paul, you and your network are a part of that. And I have other, overlapping networks as well. It's interesting that you bring up that topic because this Saturday, I am actually giving a TEDx talk in Colorado on the topic of connectedness as a leader and how important that is to develop with your team, to develop with other leaders, to develop externally, to just help yourself flourish and lean into your strengths. It's like this motto that I carry with me in the back of my mind and do what you love in service of those who love what you do. And if you follow that, you find your community.
So is this your first TED Talk?
This is my first TED Talk. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Congratulations. And so that'll be exciting to see and how you can repurpose that. So what have you found to happen as far as the doors to open, the authority that's created once you become a best-selling author and then start to speak about it?
Yeah, well, I think the The TED Talk is one immediate outcome that comes to mind based off of being recognized as a published author in my space. And there have been other opportunities that have kind of come my way that have been really surprising. Earlier this year, I mean, given I've worked in the training industry for about 20 years, and then I decided to step outside of working for organizations and work with a consulting company. I did that for about 6.5 years. And then I've gone off and kind of done my own thing, building my own business. And through building my own business and building those connections and publishing books, an opportunity that came my way earlier this year was to be featured on the NASDAQ billboard in New York. I mean, talk about imposter syndrome. Like, who am I? I've published a couple little books. I mean, granted, they're bestsellers and we have continual sales on the platforms where they're published. But you still have that little voice in the back of your head, like, who am I? Who am I to do this? But what a cool opportunity. And that came through networking with other authors and speakers and writers who gave me the confidence to tell me that I'm ready and here's this opportunity. And no matter how you feel about yourself and where you are in your journey, you are ready. The world is ready for you. So take it. It's been an amazing ride.
It's interesting because as an author and a speaker is a lot of the compelling drive behind it is that you feel that you have a message that you want to give to people. But a lot of times it's in formation, it's in development. And so the creative process when you sit down is it starts to unfold and it starts to develop. And it can be that you've learned some things that, talking to people or that you go through that it can be good. But, there's that time where you just start to speak about it and the authority and the recognition is there to where people just say, "Oh, Morgan, that really inspired me," or "that really motivated me." Or some people say, "Oh, that really changed my life." And it's just like, "Oh my gosh," you think, "Wow, how did that happen?"
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of taken on a life of its own, and I definitely have messages to share around leadership and resilient leadership. I had some not so great experiences earlier on in my career with leaders and managers that I reported to, and so I always wanted to be the type of leader that I wished I had earlier on. And I definitely have some key messages around resiliency and how to navigate change based off of personal experiences that I've had. My family lost property in the Camp Fire in Northern California several years ago. And just the amount of stress and anxiety that not only caused us as a family, but all the community members in the Paradise, California area kind of launched into the creation of a change model and a book that I co-authored with a dear friend, Darby Starnes, called Change Rhythm, based off of our organizational change tactics that we had learned as trainers with organizations and rolling out change training and seeing how we could put a personal spin on it and give everyone some of these tools and techniques to overcome change in their personal life as well. And so for me, as long as I'm following that spark and where that message is and putting energy into developing something around that message, that seems to be what is keeping me moving forward in my business and also keeps things joyful for me too as an entrepreneur.
Your struggle with the bad manager scenario that you're talking about, I imagine provides the framework for a lot of good stories and how that struggle that you went through. And it's just such a common thing that people identify with. And I found that in my books that where people respond the most is where the struggle is the hardest. It's like when my book came out and I talk about the lowest point in my life.
Mm.
And there was one aspect that I did not want to share. And I didn't put it in my book because, what are my kids going to think? What is my extended family going to think? But 5 years ago, I was living in an abandoned church all alone and seeking purpose and meaning in my life. And all I knew is I had a book in me that I wanted to get out,
Yeah.
but I was completely lost. And so when I started telling that story, oh my gosh, things just like went off the chart. My following grew 15 times from 2,000 to 30,000. And
Yeah.
that was the message I should have put in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Put it out there to the world and see where it takes you. I mean, yeah, I can relate to the fear of it's it's kinda like the open kimono. You're exposing yourself and every hardship that you've been through, and people just gravitate towards that type of vulnerability because you have lessons and you've overcome, and look at where you are now, and, "Oh my gosh, that gives me inspiration for look what I can do too. I'm gonna follow Paul and see what I can learn from him," and I think we need more of that in the world, that storytelling, I mean, because that drives connection too.
Part of my desire for the community was to be able to share some things that I've learned that have helped me so much, like the power of podcasting and how that I really found my voice and speaking the stories and telling the stories. I can transcribe that and it comes out in a way that I could never type or like hand write it out. And so that's just something that I love sharing in my communities about that. And so everybody has their own style. I know my sister has written 6 best-selling books, and she was a good inspiration for me, but she was more like travel and cookbooks and those types of things,
Yeah.
historical things. But she gave me a tip that if you handwrite it, it really helps you in the creative process because it gives you a little bit of time while you're writing as the next thought comes, and it just kind of snowballs from there. But
Yeah.
it's been so enjoyable to speak with you about this, and it's fun to collaborate with you because we both know the power of anthology books and the way that when you pool your resources together. And I heard a saying not too long ago that spoke with as far as vibration and frequency is that if you have the vibration of yourself and you match it up with another that's very similar, aligned, or the same frequency, is that it multiplies in effect. And if it was somebody that you don't resonate with and that it actually lowers or maybe goes down to zero. And so your community, your collaborations, the things that you see in groups is such a powerful thing. And I just have to applaud you for paving the way for new things that are going to happen. So
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you
enjoyable.
out here to Tahoe with me.
That'd be great. Well, this is part of the podcast that I have, Skyrocket to Success, which is a part of the Publish, Speak, and Prosper group. And so, Morgan, how can people get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Well, they can go to the website. It's leadershipandtrainingconcierge.com. Or people can reach out to me direct. You can find me on LinkedIn, Morgan Massie, Massie, or email. I'll put my email out there. I'll give you the info one. It's info at leadershipandtrainingconcierge.com. And I'm happy to chit chat or answer any questions anyone has about leadership, resilience, change, writing books, authoring, everything that we've talked about today and more.
Okay. And the final thing is if you were to give one tip to a would be author that has a message within them, what would be the advice that you would give them, Morgan?
I would just say it like Nike, just do it. Take those 10, 15 minutes a day, and it's gonna be messy, and we're just gonna acknowledge that it's gonna be messy and uncomfortable at first, but just put that expertise to paper. Don't worry about how it's gonna look when it's all finalized. The first step is the biggest, and that's just starting. Just do it and start building your community around you for support.
You had a key word in that as far as the just do it, and you said we.
Yes.
And I think the we is just like the most powerful thing because if you have somebody that's really, you have the great connection with, and you feel like the coaching is really advancing. I had a book coach that just, we were at odds. I mean, he was like, memoirs don't sell. Or he said, Paul, your book is like a 9-lane freeway. It's like, it's not encouraging to me at
Yeah.
all. Ended up having to get a different author from the publishing group. And it was actually some suggestions from my book coach that helped me pull my memoir together. But the we and just do it, I think we just do it together. I think that's a good one. So
Yes.
that's awesome.
Absolutely.
So Thanks for your time today. And it's been a wonderful chance to enjoy your interaction. Thanks so
Thank
much.
oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.